Well, welcome everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started in a few moments. We are we have Slido, and that's what I'm logging in right now if I look distracted. So how you get into Slido is you go to www.slido.com and you can put in this number and I'll show it to you right now. And Kelly, is my audio okay?
Yes, it's great.
Great. Okay. All right. So we're going to start off our webinar with just a quick poll question that you can continue to answer. We're going to launch this poll. And you can continue to answer this as I give the presentation. And we have two that I'm going to make live. Also, if you could just let us know what city you're joining us from. All right. So those are the two poll questions that would be great for you all to answer. And I'll get started. So welcome. This is a webinar on the City's Efficiency Leadership Council, a year in review, and our 2023 programs. I know I have the wrong date on here. It's for today, January 12th. I think that my brain was still on holiday time when I made this first slide, so my apologies. Again, this is hosted by the South Central Partnership for Energy Efficiency as a Resource, or also known as SPEAR. So thank you for joining us. And here again are the two poll questions. In one word, what is the biggest challenge for your organization right now? And what city are you joining us from? Get a good kind of feedback about where you're joining us across the state of Texas or in the United States. Sometimes we have a few people that join us from webinars from actually Alaska, which is really interesting. And two people that are joining us today for our presentation is myself and Kelly Herbert. Kelly, my apologies. I just saw that I need to put your name and title, but you'll be great on introducing yourself. I manage the local government program for SPEAR, and I have over 15 years of experience in developing, leading, and implementing waste revision programs and also greenhouse gas inventory policies, several sectors within sustainability, energy and water conservation, as well as policy development. I worked for almost 10 years for Travis County and the city of Austin. And then I currently serve as a former United States Green Building Council Central Texas regional chair. And then I also serve on the Energy Services Council, and I'm the communications chair. I have a master's degree in sustainability from Texas State. And then I'm also a lead accredited green associate. So it's a little bit about my background. I'm very excited to be talking with you all today. And Kelly, you want to give us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, absolutely. I am Kelly Herbert. I'm the managing director here at SPEAR. I've been with SPEAR actually since it began back in 2011 when we created our first board of directors. I have worked as the communications and events coordinator, then moved on to local governments program manager. I then became the operations manager and now managing director. I've been in energy efficiency since 2004. I worked prior to SPEAR. I worked for Good Company Associates, which is the organization that created SPEAR back in 2011. I have a master's degree in nonprofit management and leadership, and I'm very passionate about energy efficiency and the training that we offer. Thank you all for joining us today. And Shaun, just did you see those questions?
Yes, I just answered them.
Awesome.
All right, thanks. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. Do a little bit of housekeeping. So today You will get these slides via email and you'll get the recording within about 24 hours. And then we also have a follow-up survey. And so please share what you thought about this webinar or how we can improve or any ideas what you would like to hear about. We have webinars that have covered a range of topics, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later in the presentation. And again, with the presentation questions, if you can put them here on Zoom through Q&A, you can also put them at slido.com, and then it gives you the ability to see everyone's questions because your Q&A just they are seen by the panelist. And so if you post them on Slido, then everyone gets to see your questions. And then you can be like, oh, well, this person's already asked what I was curious about. All right, so moving on. So those of you who are not familiar with SPEAR, it is a national, it's a regional or a nonprofit. Let me take a step back. We are one of 6 regional energy efficiency organizations. They're known as RIOs. And RIOs work through funded partnerships with the US Department of Energy. And we collaborate with utilities, third-party program administrators, public officials, advocacy groups, businesses, and foundations to increase the impact and reach of other RIOs, but such as ours. Our region is Texas and Oklahoma. And there you see on the slide is our mission. It's to support city energy management by facilitating sharing of best practices and energy efficiency while strengthening relationships among local governments through also the City Efficiency Leadership Council. But we also have a stronger breadth of what we encompass, and Kelly will be adding on to that later in the presentation. So further about that, so you see here, I'll show you a map so you can have an idea of other regional energy efficiency organizations across the nation. We're one of the smaller ones. Our work really does cover like policy building codes and high performance buildings, as well as local government My Program. And then our membership is quite broad. We have advocacy organizations, ESCOs, as well as cities, manufacturers, trade associations, and utilities. And again, Kelly will provide a stronger depth on those aspects. So today I'm going to talk about a year in review. So looking at this past year, and then also a little bit the year before that, on what was going on in the City Efficiency Leadership Council, as well as upcoming CELC programs, and then SPEAR's current focus, which will be covered by Kelly Herbert. And then we'll kind of close up with a wrap up next steps and evaluation. And then I want everyone to also know that the way we're approaching our webinars is the last 10 minutes, we will stop recording, and we want to have kind of more of a feel for a roundtable and discussion. And so you should feel free to put your questions in. We can also address questions throughout the webinar, but at the end, we will stop recording and then just have a discussion about what's going on, challenges, or anything else, other topics that you want to cover. So a little bit more about the City Efficiency Leadership Council, if you're not familiar with it. It's a collaborative network of Texas cities, school districts, as well as universities and college districts and counties. And it's really to engage in partnership and resource exchange, and also expand the adoption of energy management best practices in the public sector. Again, the membership to the City Efficiency Leadership Council is free, and it is supported by the State Energy Conservation Office, as well as the Houston Advanced Research Center. And we do that with a partnership with them. And the purpose you see here is to align regional partner initiatives. An example could be that if you need support of a nonprofit for a grant that you're going for, the City Efficiency Leadership Council, we go through partnerships, and it's also utilizing SPEAR as well. And so we've done that in the past with an MOU with some small cities and some grants that they're going for. We also leverage regional resources and share best practices. And that's also through collaborations with the Council of Governments and the counties in this region throughout Texas and Oklahoma, and provide networking and capacity building opportunities and identifying funding opportunities for projects. So we do even have webinars specifically on upcoming funding opportunities and bring in the representatives from those organizations. And then mentorship, and then collaborate as a group on regional sustainability projects and initiatives. And I hope to see a lot more of that happen in the future. And we have a couple of programs that we'll be focusing on to collaborate and have some good initiatives moving forward. So reflection in numbers, for CLC this past year, we had, well, we have 6 in each region. We engaged about 50 cities and connected with 147 local governments. And when you say connection, you're asking probably, what does that mean? And that means that had connections with them where we assisted in administrative help or technical assistance and guidance through energy reporting, or even technical assistance with ordinances or some ideas on how to create policies within your organization to move energy efficiency forward or sustainability initiatives. And we also help assist with facilitation within your organization, and we're also working on having that expertise to assist with facilitation on initiatives moving forward within your city. So with webinars, we've had about 26 in the past 2 years. They covering with topics from embracing blockchain with sustainability in mind to and the mechanism of Texas energy market, to also green computing. People don't have that conversation very often, but green computing, computers take a substantial amount of energy to support. And so there's different ways you can approach your IT department and having some good cost saving measures through best management practices. So this kind of gives you the breadth of also who are attending these events. It's mostly cities, but we do have a strong audience from nonprofits to education, and then state and federal government. We also have newsletters that we send out. And on average, our open rate is about 24%. These newsletters, we are always asking for content, especially from the with our CLC and from our membership. So any of our local governments, they have the opportunity to really give themselves recognition. And what you're doing out there, a lot of these positions as a sustainability coordinator or analyst is that you are putting together some of these projects that sometimes take a lot of effort. And a great example is if you have a new sustainability policy, sometimes that takes at least a year of work. Well, send us the information, and then that way we can give you recognition across the state. And it also is twofold for another local government to say, oh, well, we want to work on something like that. Let's reach out to, Travis County and see how they went through their process for a sustainability policy. We have about 1,100 subscribers, and we're always looking for interesting content again. So feel free to share it with us. And we also share opportunities for jobs. So what's new? I'm going to be hitting on monthly webinars, our CLC LinkedIn group. We also have a program, the local government training program cohort, as well as a statewide focus group. First, I'm going to touch on what's new is with the City Efficiency Leadership Council. It's been around for a while. It's been, Kelly, do you think it's been the CLC? It's about 6 years?
Yes, it was about 2013, actually. So almost.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay. So, but also being a person, I'm fairly new to SPEAR, so I started about a year ago. I really wanted the CLC Council to know what their benefits are, and also so we have a better understanding and with good bringing back some good communication. So we now have a process with joining the City Efficiency Leadership Council. And there's a form on our website, and a bit when I will drop that in the chat where you can find more information about the City Efficiency Leadership Council. But I wanted to highlight some of the benefits again is the newsletters, but also social media engagement. I engage through LinkedIn, and we also, again, I had mentioned our we have a new CLC LinkedIn group. So it creates a space where, as a local government, if you're working on a new contract, you can put it out there and say, hey, does anyone currently have a composting contract you want to share? Or does anybody have an energy services contract? I want to explore and learn more about it. So you can connect in a safe space. So there's not going to be any consultants on this LinkedIn group. It's only CLC membership. And I worked in contracting for about 10 years. And so I understand the need to really see the first thing you do is see what other people have already done, see what their challenges were, and when you start writing your scope of work or request for proposals. So this gives you a great space to do that, as well as, again, promote your jobs that are coming up or just have some conversations. So I'm pretty excited about the CLC and LinkedIn group. And then we also provide technical assistance up to 10 hours. So a great example is I was meeting with the city yesterday, and sometimes you are asked to do certain projects that you may not have those skill sets yet. And so I'm happy. I love data. It's a little ridiculous, but I'm happy to kind of look at the data with you or help you understand how to line the information out so that whenever you create pivot tables or do some quick graphs or visuals that you need, for a project, that I am happy to assist in that. But also just really looking at the data, and so you can understand what you're looking for with your buildings and the energy consumption and water consumption, and what does that mean. We also put together templates. We have a couple of policy resolutions, and we're also going to be working on energy plan templates as well on our websites, and so you're welcome to explore that. And then again, stakeholder engagement with webinars, but we also are working on stakeholder engagement through facilitation and meetings. So a little bit about some exciting programs that we're doing is the State Energy Conservation Office has a strong interest in understanding what issues are most concerned for local governments. And that an analysis of what is needed hasn't been performed recently in a way that everyone has the information. And so we're hosting a local government community engagement assessment. So basically a focus group to examine what is going on, what's your needs, and such as subjects of resiliency, sustainability, training. And just finding out what you find is essential. So some feedback I've already received is that more local governments, you need some grant writers internally because of all the pressures to go for certain different grants to support these initiatives. You just don't have the staffing. So pulling that information together, and this is a focus group that's going to be parceled into different regions, Central, West, East, and the Gulf Coast. And these 5 focus groups, the work's going to bring together a collaboration of understanding the breadth of Texas. And then I will be sending out a survey. You'll respond and give answers to that survey. And then depending on your region, we'll then have a focus group and review those results of that survey. And from there, look if there was any gaps in saying, well, this is really interesting, but actually we didn't really cover this in that survey questionnaire. And I'll take all that information from each of those focus groups and put it into an overall report that's then submitted to SECA, so the State Energy Conservation Office. And then hopefully that information will be used to direct them on what can they reflect on for their programming in the future, especially with the up and coming distribution of funds through the IIJA or the Inflation Reduction Act. So All these meetings will be hosted virtually. And if you're thinking about, well, how much time is this focus group going to take? I understand everyone's incredibly busy. So it's going to be about overall 4 hours. And I'm trying to keep the questionnaire to be about 30 minutes of your time, and then about an hour and a half of your time when we have the focus group, and give or take 30 minutes if I need to follow up directly to you on the from your responses from the survey. So overall 4 hours. And then at the end, we'll have a presentation of that report and our findings, and that will be occurring about in August. Then we'll have an in-person presentation in September that all the focus group attendees will be invited to, and that will be occurring at the annual SPEAR industry and policy workshop. And if you have any questions about that, feel free to put that in the chat. Again, we really need local governments to participate so we can have great information to provide us to CECO. And so if you want to, it's a great way to make a difference and have impact. And the other aspect that I like to share about this is that, and also you'll have something that you can provide to your city council or commissioner's court, or saying, hey, look, we're not the only ones having these issues. And a part of the focus group as well is not just identifying the issues, but we'll also identify some solutions and ideas. So you'll be able to take this information and utilize it and say, well, you know what, I think that the city of Austin, they're having these same challenges, and here are their solutions, or as well as maybe city of Brownsville, and gives you more traction, especially whenever you're going through the process of having your budget requests that are coming up. So it's hopefully it'll be a useful tool, not just for CECO, but for the cities that participate as well, and having some good data. And then our webinars, we have several coming up this year that I'm pretty excited about. So with our webinars, we have one, there's the Houston Advanced Research Center. They're going to be focusing on really energy and best management practices and some of their new programs that they have coming. And I'll talk a little bit more about a partnership that we're doing with HARP, and we're all pretty excited about. I'm also very excited about our webinar in April on how to use data to create stories, because data was the one way in Travis County that we were able to move forward a substantial amount of our initiatives, is utilizing the data that we had in our budget requests, and to also demonstrate the need for certain energy management practices, or even just to kind of shift the way we looked at our purchasing. And then we also have another new program I'm excited about, is the Local Government Training Committee. So we have a call for participants. It's going to be a very small working group. It's a great way to get to know other local government agencies throughout Texas. And the reason why it's being created is to really have a deep dive on what training is needed for local government staff. Past couple of years, we've noticed that there's been a high turnover with no designated staff to enact some of the required responsibilities. And also possibly some of the staff that's being hired, they don't have a lot of knowledge related to energy management or understanding of certain requirements for reporting. And then at the same time, when you're hiring, you don't necessarily have the bandwidth to do the training as well. So we're partnering with agencies within local governments to have a conversation on what agency subject matter should we focus on, what's essential for the workforce to have a base knowledge of. And then what we'll do is examine this training, how we can also scale it and have scalability in mind for local governments, and also including in mid-sized communities. The agencies that participate in this process will have access to, we'll put together a proposal, and hopefully next year we will be running a pilot, and the agencies that participated this year and the cohort will have access to the training and be able to pilot that with their staff and also as well as potentially have the ability to integrate it into their existing in-house training systems. So feel free to ask any questions about that. I'm very excited. And then also, Spear, we went in partnership. We were asked to be one of the subcontractors with the Houston Advanced Research Center. They were awarded $1.9 million from the Department of Energy to develop a retrofit weatherization program in underserved communities. Spear will be supporting in connection with the pilot county, as well as providing training services. So very excited about that, and that will hopefully be rolling out fairly soon. The kind of training that will be included is climate-proof training, and then also looking at retrofit technology options. Kelly, is there anything else you want to cover on that one?
No, I think for right now, you've covered exactly what we're doing.
Okay. All right. So I am going to go ahead. We're going to shift over here to Kelly and with some updates.
Okay. Good morning. And as Shaun previously mentioned, we have a multitude of opportunities to collaborate with Spear as a local government or any industry that you're in. But one of the beginning ones that we'll talk about that really started with Spear from the very beginning is our building codes program. The goal with that program is promoting code compliance through Texas and Oklahoma through education and outreach. We aim to kind of optimize energy efficiency, durability, affordability through adoption and enforcement in new energy codes, although we know that can be very difficult within the local governments. But we do provide that training to local governments, builders, contractors, installers. We have an employee, our building codes program manager, who goes out into the field and he brings people to job sites and shows them how things are being done properly and correctly, and provides them with that knowledge base to ensure properly built homes. As we all know from Winter Storm Uri, that if a home is not built properly and efficiently, we can't provide a safe space for people. So I think that is incredibly important to continue that adoption of new energy codes as they change. Our goal is really to help everyone understand what the code actually says, what it means, and then what compliance actually looks like. The training's offered to local governments, like I said, builders, contractors, installers, inspectors, pretty much anybody within that industry. We are happy to come out and train them on the most up-to-date code information across Texas and in Oklahoma. We like to provide just the one-stop shop for the latest building codes, standards, code adoptions, anything like that, and bring clarity to your field and what that code actually means, because it can be a very confusing field. So we team up with public and private partners to help bring you the most proven insights to energy codes. Also touching on what energy efficiency means and what that means within the code that is adopted within your city. Energy efficiency needs all kinds of champions. As you all know, in Texas and in Oklahoma, we are not at the top when it comes to energy efficiency. So we need you all to be the champions for what energy efficiency means to Texas. We do have an ambassador program with our energy codes program, and they take lessons learned through Spear and then take it to their circles and provide education and training to those. They're also on call to answer any kind of questions to those in the building codes arena. One of our top priorities is really empowering those within the industry to be effective long-term, and having access to the industry's best tools helps them stay kind of ahead of the game in the energy codes area. One of our next programs that we do have at SPEAR that is also very much related to buildings is our building operator certification program. So we've also had this almost as long as the CELC. This was back in 2013-14. We decided to partner with NEEC, the Northwest Energy Efficiency Council, and among others, to bring this program to Texas and Oklahoma. It provides very extensive, probably one of the most extensive trainings around energy efficiency within the commercial building. So it's extensive training that we provide to building managers, to operators, to facility managers. We'll even train those at the financial level so that they have a real good understanding of why those building managers, operators, or facility managers are asking for these upgrades and funds in their budget for energy efficiency. I think it's very important that you start at the top and work all the way down so that everyone has that understanding to be effective. And like I mentioned, this has probably one of the most in-depth energy efficiency focused trainings within building operations. There are two pathways with this certification program. You have a certificate of completion or a full certification. Both are incredibly important. You attend all 8 full days of training. It's now offered virtually since COVID, which is excellent because that allows those building operators and managers to stay within their buildings and still receive that training. It's been provided to thousands of professionals nationwide. It has definitely created a higher demand for this certification within the profession. It's definitely professionalized facility managers and operators. Most buildings through this program can reduce their total energy use 5 to 30% while maintaining or even improving comfort and function within their buildings. Operations maintenance best practices can also save 5 to 20% annually on energy bills, but they can only be operated efficiently if these building operators are trained properly on the actual building itself. You can build the most efficient building, but if the operators are not trained to continue to run it efficiently, it will become the most inefficient building. So next we have SPEAR's policy program. So this touches on a variety of areas. We work within the Public Utility Commission and educating and training around legislative initiatives. So I'll talk a little bit about each of these initiatives, but it's a start. As we all know, the legislature just started yesterday, so we are keeping our eyes out as to what is going on and what bills are being filed and tracking that. And we will continue to put out that information so that everyone within our reach has that information and can follow it along. We will also be looking at putting together a legislative initiative webinar that kind of discusses the current state of the legislature and what SPEAR is doing, and ask you all to continue to support those missions. So EERS, Goal Improvement Performance. So as many of you may not be aware, Texas was the first state to establish an EERS goal. While it was innovative back in 1999, Texas' current goal of 0.4% of peak demand is dead last among states with energy efficiency goals. So we really support efforts to increase energy efficiency solutions to reduce total demand across the state. And this is not just achievable, but it's necessary to ensure grid reliability. Within appropriations, obviously, we are tracking and watching for spending on energy efficiency programs provided through state investor-owned utilities. Over the last 10 years, it's become very stagnant, and it's roughly around $130 million per year. While that may sound like a lot, again, we are dead last when it comes to energy efficiency programs and spending. With recent federal legislation, Texas stands to gain hundreds of millions of dollars for energy efficiency retrofits, low income programs, climate preparedness, And we continue to support efforts to pursue additional federal funding that may act to boost that even further. Equity. That is a big question around energy efficiency. Current statute relating to energy efficiency goals requires a minimum of 10% of the utilities energy efficiency program budget be spent on low-income customers. These funds are incredibly important to help ease the disproportionate energy burden on low-income Texans due to inconsistent building codes and efficiency planning. So we support actions to increase total energy spending on low-income households. This is incredibly important. Workforce development is another area. The energy sector job growth outpaces the national average. So new energy efficiency jobs in the state represents 11% of the national energy efficiency jobs created in the last year. And in order to keep Texas an attractive location for energy sector jobs, SPEAR supports the continued workforce development with specific focus on veterans, historically underutilized and disadvantaged businesses as well. Let's see here. Updated building codes is another one. We will continue to monitor anything around building codes. 2/3 of Texas homes are at least 20 years old. And as a result of these older homes, there's less efficient building envelopes and it increases the load size on the grid. So we support updating outdated statewide building codes and efficient appliances. And this, we are really working to help build the understanding around both existing and new buildings. DR residential initiatives. So energy efficiency, while it reduces total demand response helps alleviate the stress in the moment to the grid during peak hours. So when energy conservation calls are made, large commercial and industrial customer classes are compensated for their efforts to reduce demand, while residential customers are not. So SPEAR supports establishing programs to ensure that residents are able to take part in DR programs and compensated for their participation. I think that's incredibly important, and I think will help increase the amount of customers that participate in demand response at the residential level. Transmission buildouts. The PUC and ERCOT have been working through implementation of SB 1281 and pilot programs for DERs. It's increasingly important to have forward-looking transmission plan processes so that we can reduce congestion and increase the reliability of the grid. As we all know, that is incredibly important. And we support the continued efforts to review and enhance this transmission infrastructure planning. And last but not least, climate action. As we have all seen, extreme weather events are not just more frequent, but have become very common in Texas. And according to the state climatologist, Texas will experience 50% more flooding and severe droughts, as well as many 100-degree days by 2036. So SPEAR supports developing a climate action plan to address these actions and look forward to mitigation efforts. And this is something that we look to do not just at the legislative level, but we're also happy to work with local governments and/or business to put together climate action plans. So that's just, a few of the areas. And as I mentioned, if you continue to monitor our newsletters as well as our website, we will update as bills start getting filed and the process of which they start moving. Another program that we do have that kind of fits within our policy program is heat pumps. In our region, we have little to no incentive to install heat pumps. So heat pumps they offer cooling and heating by removing heat from the home in summer and pulling heat into the home during the winter months. They're an incredibly energy efficient alternative to traditional furnaces or air conditioners and have a much lower carbon footprint. So by utilizing staging or variable speed heat pumps, we have the ability to control your indoor temperature and humidity with consistency and comfort all year long in both hot and cold climates. So this is it's an incredibly important area of service within our region. And we have created a heat pump working group that we are working with manufacturers in heat pumps to inform and educate on heat pumps with the goal of increasing incentives and the number of heat pumps installed in Texas in the future. We are also participating in a heat pump validation field study with several other RIOs and the PNNL National Lab. So this study will be in partnership with all of these organizations to address issues that hinder heat pump adoption rates, which we have seen a significantly lower number of heat pumps installed and operational within our region. That's both Texas and Oklahoma. So this partnership is going to work on serving as a national clearinghouse for in-field data and information from all the stakeholders. We're going to identify gaps in research, questions associated with field validation, develop and coordinate collaborative field tests among relevant stakeholders throughout the nation, work with manufacturers and trade organizations to collect and develop training materials required for heat pump installation and maintenance, and then help expand and clarify the best practices needed to achieve market transformation in all the regions of the United States. So heat pumps are incredibly important here in Texas, but across the nation. And we are going to work on putting together a pretty detailed heat pump webinar coming soon, so that our manufacturers can speak with those either in local governments, utilities, public utility commission, legislatures, to discuss kind of what incentives are needed in order to increase the number of heat pumps. And last but not least, SPEAR membership. So as I mentioned prior, SPEAR was formed in 2011. We became a nonprofit organization in 2014 and have been working with all of the RIOs, the Department of Energy, national labs, and those other organizations since then. And as Shaun previously mentioned, our membership ranges from energy service companies to local governments to nonprofits, manufacturers, pretty much anybody within the energy efficiency industry is a member of SPEAR. We have several utilities as well. Our membership growth has been consistent at about 22% year to year, with a 90% membership retention rate, which is pretty high, especially given the climate over the last several years. SPEAR members get highlighted in our newsletters on our website. They participate in a membership only meeting. We also have board positions that help grow and shape the mission and vision of SPEAR. Participation in working groups and initiatives that assist in developing strong networks. So we provide several opportunities for not just SPEAR membership, but all of those within our industry to network and work together, staying current, on energy efficiency issues and those policies that are needed. Thank you, Shaun.
What I'm going to do now is we're going to go to our questions. We have a question that we'll go ahead and answer, and then we'll shift and I'll stop recording. So one of the questions was, if you're a nonprofit agency and working with a local government for projects or programs, can you participate in the City Efficiency Leadership Council? And I know that in the past, we just kept it with local governments, but I think moving forward, Kelly, what was our stance on that?
I think it's pretty much anybody within that public local government organization is really the base for membership within the CELC.
Okay. And then also we have another question. Does SPEAR address Texas projects looking at DER, including interconnection, cost recovery, and aggregated DERs?
Yes, that is, I mean, that's a big part of our policy program. And I'm sure our policy program manager, Noah Oakes, is working very closely with the Public Utility Commission, ERCOT, legislature around all of those topics.
Okay, great. Thank you. So this moment, I'm going to go ahead and I will, again, our presentation recording will be publicly available and sent to everyone. And our CEUs also available, I believe, for this one as well. And we'll send out an evaluation survey. And with SPEAR, or if you want to get a hold of me, you're welcome to reach out and contact me through email. Also, we have different ways to connect through Facebook, Twitter, as well as we have a YouTube channel. All our webinars are, again, recorded and then posted there. We have a library of about 100 plus videos and trainings. And then also you can go to our website at eepartnership.org. I am now going to stop the recording and we can have kind of a conversation. So for those of you who want to stay for the conversation, please do. And then thank you so much for joining us for this webinar.
Shaun, we do have a question about the ambassador programs.